Raise your hand if you would love to have a happy, healthy back. Raise your hand if you've had back challenges or issues. I got both hands up. How about you? I tell you, when we have back pain, there's nothing worse. You just cannot ignore it. And so, what do we do to prevent that from happening over and over again? It takes a little bit of work, I've found, and especially as I'm maturing in years, it's taking a little bit more work, but I'm not going to give up on it. I want to avoid those bouts of back pain as much as possible. So, this session is going to be your go to session to go back to and say, I'm going to continue to work on the things that I need to do to have a happy, healthy back. So, there are four things that I would say. First is strength, stability. And we need strength of our core. You've heard it a million times. And that means core like front, side, back, and deep intrinsic muscles as well. So, strength. The second thing is we need mobility or range of motion. The spine needs to be able to move freely in multiple directions. So we're not getting stiff and, like petrified wood in one position only. So we need strength, we need mobility and or flexibility, you could think about it as well. We need to be aware of our posture, right? So if the head sits forward, which happens a lot in our texting world, that's going to affect the upper back, which is affecting the lower back. So being aware of posture, where we're placing our legs and our pelvis, and that can certainly help. And the last thing is releasing tension in the areas around the low back and hips. So we always talk about releasing our hips, right? The quads, the inner thighs, the outer thighs, and the hamstrings. So we need to release tension. They're like those muscles are like guide wires that influence our pelvis and influence our low back. And let me add one thing I forgot to say. When it comes to strength, not only do we need to strengthen our core, but we really need to keep our glutes, our buttocks strong because those kind of go south and get weak on us as we mature too and as we sit more. So I'm going to cover all of those things in this short practice. And it is a shorter practice, but you could repeat the whole practice once or twice or three times, even if you really want to work on it. So is that a good plan? Let's get started. We're going to start in child's pose. So let me adjust the camera here, and I'm going to meet you on my mat in child's pose. And in this first child's pose, we'll center and get grounded and also just take inventory on what are we currently feeling in our backs and the rest of our body. So extend your arms long and sit on back. And if for some reason your back is tender today and even this doesn't feel good, you modify. Maybe you put your hands on blocks. Maybe you don't go back as far, but I want you just to feel right now, feel a deep breath as you breathe into your low back and out. Feel the sides of your body as you breathe in. Feel your shoulders. Maybe one feels tighter than the other. Keep the breath flowing, inviting fluidity. And then place the hands and pull yourself on up. Invite you to walk your hands to the right. So we do a diagonal child's pose. Shift the hips back over to the left. So you let the head come down. Breathe into the left lung, left side of the body. And then rise and walk across to the left side of your mat, separating the hands shoulder width apart. And shift your hips back to the right and observe. Breathe. And then please lift on up. Coming to the center here, so we start to bring a little bit more mobility into the spine. We're going to round the back into cat pose. and hold in cat. Let the body shift back and forward as you hold in cat pose. You're keeping that rounded position while rocking back and forth just a little bit. And then stop in the middle, go opposite into cow pose, and this time move your hips side to side as you hold in cow pose. And then stop in the middle, round into cat pose again, and shift your shoulders and head side to side in cat pose. And then come one last time into child's pose. And don't move the hand, not child's pose, cow pose. Try to drag the heel of the hands back towards your knees without really moving them. Stretch the front line of the body there. And now come to neutral, walk to the right again. However, this time we're going to go down to our forearms. And once you're in your forearms, you can walk even a little bit more over to the right. And then start to round your back. Round, 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 round. Tucking the chin. Push down a little more with your left elbow. And then start to shift your hips back to the left. And you'll feel perhaps a little deeper stretch or lengthening on the left side of your body from your hip to your armpit. Keep the breath flowing, friends. And then we'll come out of that. And however you want to get to the other side, walk over just a little bit more of a bend here as you come onto your forearms. Round your back into cat pose. Tuck the chin and push down through the right elbow as you push your hips over to the right. Oh, this feels so good. It's very eye-opening too if you're tight on that side. I am very tight here. Whoa. You're like, what? Yoga teachers aren't tight. Oh, yes, we are. That's why we keep doing it. And come out of it to the center. Okay, let's start to wake up a little bit through the core. I'm coming up for a moment just to pull my pants up. Now, come back to all fours position. Let's extend your right leg straight back. Kick the heel up so you feel the right buttock engaged, and then draw your ribs up as you know to do, and extend your left arm. And we hold in bird dog, starting our journey into strengthening and through the core and the glutes. So you're kicking your heel up and then bring everything down. So the other side, legs straight, kick the heel up so you feel the left gluteal tone and active. Draw your belly up and extend the right arm. I always think of lifting my right armpit. Keep that part lifting. And then bring it in. And we're going to change that slightly, putting more core action now. So we're going to lengthen right leg, left arm. And then as you bring the knee in, bring the hand to touch the thigh here. Push against the thigh and resist. So the thigh is pushing forward, the hand is pushing into the thigh, round the back and feel your core activate. And then extend and reach and lengthen. Good, release down. We'll repeat that on the second side. Extend left leg, right arm, looking straight down. And then bend the elbow, bring the knee forward, hand on the thigh, round your spine and push hand to knee, knee to hand. It's like abdominal bracing that we've done often. It's pushing, 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 and then release. Awesome. We're going to come out of our wrists for a second, come onto your forearms, and just bow the head and round the back. And then come forward. Try to draw the elbows energetically back as you stretch forward. Little mobility break there. And then we'll come back up for another stability and strengthening. So this one's a little different. We're going to extend the right leg back, left arm out, kick up through the heel, Bring that glute online, draw the ribs up. And now this time we're going to bring elbow to knee and round the back, holding and extend. Same side again, one more time. Bring it in, hold and extend. And bring it down. Other side. Extend the left leg, right arm. Kick the heel up and elbow to knee, elbow to thigh, whatever you want to touch, and extend out. And elbow to thigh and extend out. And then bring it down. Let's come down to our elbows, our forearms, and lower the pelvis. Curl the toes under. I just automatically interlaced my hands. You can do that or not. And then bow a little bit. Just look down so you feel the rib cage pull back into the body. Begin to lift your pelvis and your thighs, but keep your knees down. Holding here, we draw the elbows back energetically while trying to draw the knees forward. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release it all down. And into Sphinx pose, just lift the chest a bit, stretch. Good. We're going to lower down, bringing a gentle cobra in here now. So let's try in this cobra to not bend from the low lumbar here, but rather to arc and bend from the mid back. Okay, so you won't go as high, but we're trying not to go down to the low back. So let's just lift here, bending a little bit more through the upper mid back, and then lower back down. And again, lifting from the mid upper back and lower back down. One more time. Inhale, lifting. The glutes are firm, but we're not lifting all the way up like this. We're coming, staying right about here. And release down. Good. Hands by the hips, or hands by the chest. And then lift on up. We'll shift back to a downward dog to bring some length into the spine. And to start to release tension down the legs and the backs of the legs specifically here. You feel as you alternate bending, opening through the hamstrings and down through the calves. Breathing. We're going to lower the knees and go into what we call pigeon lifts. Pigeon lifts. And just guide your left leg forward here, bringing it into the pigeon shape that you know. Knee is off to the far left side of your mat. And then with the back leg, notice my back leg, I'm curling my toes under and I'm just wiggling the knee back little by little until my front hip says, that's good, stop. And then from here, we'll come to the elbows. And here's the difference. We're not just going to hang out here. We're going to lift. The lift comes from the back leg. So the toe is curled under on our back foot. Now I want you to lift the right knee and really lift it and feel what might be happening in your front left buttock and hip. Good. And then lower that back down. And now the back knee, we're going to lift it again. We'll feel more of a contraction now in our left glute and a nice opening on this opposite front side in the hip flexor. That's what's going on for us here. And then lower the back knee down. You could also put a block under your forearms if that feels better here. Once again, lift the back knee, stretch back through the right heel even. That's a little extra love. And then lower the knee down. Lift on up and let's step back through a down dog. Let the hips just sway side to side. And then let's take the knees to the ground and escort the right leg forward into pigeon. Wiggle the left leg back, walking the knee back, walking back, and lower to the forearms. And we begin pigeon lifts on this side. So curl the back toes under, lift the back knee. Hello, Cash. Welcome to yoga. Can you lay down? And then lower the back knee down. And again, lift the back knee. Can you hear him purring? But he doesn't have tight hips. And lower the back knee. And lift the back knee and stretch back through the heel, like your left heel is pushing into a wall. And then please lower. All righty, then we'll lift on up and take your leg on back. From here, we'll bring the hands right underneath the shoulders, curl the toes under for a little primal plank. And then we'll push into the floor and just barely lift our knees, just barely lift the knees, holding, breathing, and lowering. Arch into cow pose. And then once again, primal plank. Push the floor away, lift the knees just barely, just a tiny bit off the mat. Yeah. What you think, Cash? And then release. Awesome. Arc. And then we'll switch. We're going to come over onto our back side. And please grab one block if you have a block in your neighborhood. And we'll come onto our back side here with your block nearby. Remember I mentioned earlier that the glutes tend to lose their strength, and that can have an adverse effect on our low back. We need strong glutes. So there's some glute strengthening in this one for sure. We'll lie down. We'll place the block between the thighs, between your knees, knee thighs, and place your arms on the ground. And then we're simply going to squeeze in on the block and lift the hips up into a bridge pose. Squeezing, holding, tone through the glutes, and lower down. I'm pressing a little more emphasis through my heels as I lift. So lift again, hold, squeeze the block, and release. And once again, lift up to bridge, squeeze in, hold, squeeze the bottom, and release. And now pause here for just some gentle pelvic tilts. So I want you to lightly press your low back to the floor. So we're not firmly pressing. It's just, oh, there's my low back, lightly touching the floor. And then arch. So you have space under your low back. And again, lightly pressing and arching. So good to be able to segregate the spine and move the pelvis freely, arching again. And now we're going to pause in neutral, where there's a little pocket of space under the low back. It's not arched and it's not pressed down. I want you to put your hands on your rib cage now, as if to say, ribs, stay still as much as possible. And now this will seem a little strange at first, and it's hard for you to see, but see if you can follow along. You're going to keep the upper portion of your body stationary, and you're just going to take your right hip and draw it up towards your right rib cage. So you're just shortening that side of the body and lengthening the other side, and then back to center. And now let's go to the left side. Bring your left hip up towards your left rib cage, like a side tilt, and then back down. And then right, like you have a string, drawing the string up towards your armpit, and back neutral, and left side, and back neutral. All right. Now let's take the block, place it flat where you can put your right foot on it. So we create a little more range of motion here. And we're going to lift the pelvis first here with one foot on the block and one foot on the ground. See how it feels if you start to unload your left foot. Just lift your heel, come onto the ball of your left foot. How does that feel?
That's an option one. An option two would be lifting the left leg and just hold here. Now we're going to lower our pelvis down, but don't let it touch the ground. So we're going to lower down, down, down pretty low, but don't touch the ground. And then push back up and really firm through the right buttock. And again, we lower down, not touching if possible, and lift back up. And lower the pelvis and lift back up. And this time, stretch the leg up and hold. Good. As we lower the pelvis down all the way this time, let's cross the left ankle over into eye of the needle and then bring the legs towards you and hold the back of your right leg. And in this position, which you've probably done many, many times, we're going to go in a circular pattern very slowly. So start by letting your legs drift to the right and just notice what you feel as you're partially drifting to the right. To create the circle, let your legs move away from your chest forward, slowly across over to the left side of your body, and then back towards your chest. Feel that full circle. There's surprising little treasures all along the way. Again, circle to the right. Go really slow so you can feel it all towards and away from you. As you're pushing away from you, feel your low back arch away from the floor slightly. Off to the left and back towards your chest. Then place the right foot down and we're going to take the left leg up and do some nerve glides here. So opening through the hamstring. So we're going to bend the leg here. Let's point the toes as we stretch straight and flex at the top. Now, if you want, you could straighten this leg out right on the block. That feels good. Bend, point on the way up, and then flex. Bend, point all the way up, and then flex. Bend, point all the way up, and flex. One more time. And flex. Good. Now we'll just lift on up and slide the block over. Put the left foot on the block and begin to press down, lift the pelvis, and just see where you're at on this side. Unload the right heel. See if that might be where you want to stay. You can certainly lower and lift from here. We're trying to just get more emphasis on this right gluteal, right thigh. So if that feels okay, then try here. And now we begin lowering and lifting without touching the floor if possible. Hips down, push into the block to lift up. Hips down, push into the block to lift. Down, push and lift. And extend the right leg up. And slowly lower the pelvis. And when it lands, cross the right ankle over. And then we'll hold and bring the legs towards us. Hold the left leg. And begin to take the legs to the left first. Slowly away from you, arching the low back there. Cross the midline and over to the right. And circling, completing the circle by coming back towards your chest in the center. One more revolution there. I'm going to go side, away from your left chest, over to the right side, and back to the center. Good. Place the left foot down, and then we'll extend the right leg up and start with some nerve glides here. So we'll bend the leg, point the toe, and extend it on up and flex at the end. Now, if you want to straighten that other leg, you can do that. Bend with the pointed toe all the way up and then flex at the top. That flex is like the period at the end of the sentence, right there. Bend and straighten. Bend straighten. One more. And then we bend. Very good. Release down. Bending both legs. Let's just roll to one side and press ourselves up. We're going to come to a seated position for a seated windshield wiper, which we'll get a little more down through our quads and hip flexors. So we'll bring the legs in front here and let the legs come over to the left and just sitting up nice and tall, open chest. And then legs up and over the opposite side, lift on up and up and over again. And up and over again. Now you can keep the hands behind you, or you might explore the next level of progression where the legs come center and you bring your arms forward and then bring the legs off to one side, sit tall, lift the legs up and over, and the opposite side, up and over. You might find yourself traveling forward on your mat. That's very common. And last one, up, I'm getting stuck, and over and reach tall. Good job, and release. We'll move now onto our stomachs, addressing the quadriceps a little bit more and a little more strengthening for the muscles up the spine. So let's come on to our stomachs here. Again, we were here one other time. Lengthen the legs long. And then let's bring the hands down beside your pelvis or thighs here. Let your chin rest on the ground for a moment. First thing we're going to want to do is tone the belly. Just draw it up slightly away from the floor, an activation, and tone the buttocks slightly. So we have all the core unifying, coming together. And then lift your upper body, including the arms, just a little bit, and lift your legs just a little bit. Now, all this is in moderation. It's not about how high we lift. It's finding a place that we can sustain for a little bit. The muscles are contracted and strengthening in order to hold this little lift. And we breathe into it. See, maybe if you feel a buoyancy when you inhale, like the body just pulses and slightly rises on the inhale, and the exhale, there's just a little release, but not much. Holding just a little longer if you can. And then lower everything down, let it all relax. You might turn your head to one side. And turning head back center. Let's lift again. So first, chin on the ground, engage the abdomen and the buttocks. Then keeping that, lift the upper body, including arms, looking down so you have a nice long neck, and then lift the legs. Now, if that's too much to add the legs, just keep them on the ground and lift the upper body, holding here. The breath is creating a sense of upliftment, sustaining you. And then lower down. We'll bend the arms and come up onto the forearms, and then roll to your left side and draw the heel towards your bottom. See if you feel a stretch here in this position. If you do, then stay. If you do not, then explore bringing the knees quite close together as you roll towards your stomach, keeping the stomach away from the floor if possible by pushing down strongly through your front arm. Draw the heel towards the bottom and grow long through your spine like cobra. Breathing. What happens in our lower extremities, the tightness that builds up definitely affects our pelvis and our low back. And likewise, what happens upstream in our shoulders and our upper back can affect the low back too. That low back is right in the middle of everything, isn't it?
It's kind of like that one family member that is the bridge between everyone else's drama. So let's roll to the other side. Bring the heel towards the bottom. And then slowly come on to the stomach. Now I want to add in here, if this stretch is not obtainable for you, maybe you have a knee limitation and you really want to stretch the front of your thigh, take a look here. I would give you this option instead. I would say bring your right leg forward and just go to this position and do that on both sides where you're drawing the back knee forward and getting a little stretch to the front of the thigh. So do that instead. And if you have a hold of your foot here, go ahead and release. Hi, buddy. I think someone's hungry. He's circling like food. Yeah, I know. So then let's go back into child's pose and let's just take some inventory here. How do I feel at the end of all of these different stretches? Just let yourself rest in child's pose. You can let your arms be more relaxed in this version. Breathe deeply. It's okay, buddy. Yeah. And then slowly lift on up from child's pose. And let's bring an end to this little session by bringing a little bit of attention upstream, as I mentioned, with our posture. So just take the hands and interlace them, press the knuckles forward, and think upper back here now, right between your shoulder blades. Just round that part. Getting some mobility up there too, because we can often get this like tight turtle shell feeling. And then pull the arms back and lift the chest. And then push forward, just push your hands and round the upper back. Bless you, Cash. And then pull the elbows back and lift the chest. Yeah. And then the hands to the ground. We'll add a little twist and more upper back mobility. Put your right hand behind your head and begin to twist and open, looking up if possible. And lower down. And we're going to go up again on the same side. Open. And round elbow towards elbow. And last one, 3 on each side. Push strong with your bottom arm. And round down. And switch sides. Left hand behind the head. Push the floor away as you open and twist. Round and come in. Open. Exhale, round. Inhale, open. And exhale, round. And then come out. Coming to our last position here, coming to a seat. You could take a block or roll up your blanket so that it's the long way that would go underneath your shoulder blades, the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. Now my blanket is being occupied by my furry friend. Let me grab a different blanket. And so what I mean by that is just take a blanket or a beach towel or something and roll it. I'm going to fold this up for you here. I'm going to roll this up. A firmer blanket works better. This is a squishy blanket. And all of a sudden he wants the squishy blanket. And then I'm just going to place it under the bottom tips of my shoulder blades as I recline over it. And let your arms rest over. Oh my goodness. Opening the chest and the upper back and your breath capacity. Cash is very interested in climbing into this blanket. So you just stay there and breathe over your blanket. Here you go, buddy. Go get that blanket. It's out there. Go get it. And just let the lungs expand as you lay in that very sweet, supported back bend position. You can also do this with 2 blocks. I'm going to do that right here since someone is occupying my blanket again. I'm going to place it on the bottom tips of the blades and just, oh, this feels good too. So don't worry if you don't have a blanket. You can always Use your blocks. Just breathe. And you can stay here as long as you want, my friends, or you could press rewind and do the whole thing again and have an either stronger, happier, healthier back. So I'm going to let you stay there and I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much for strengthening and shaping and making your back healthier with me in this session. Until the next time, namaste.